Hello and welcome to Team Verify. Today we are going to discuss basics of clock signal in the series of STA concepts. So if you find interesting this video, then please like this video and subscribe our channel. Our channel is youtube.com/teamvlfi. So let's begin. First of all, see the highlights which we are going to discuss in this session. So we will discuss here clock cycle, rising and falling age, clock level, clock period and frequency, rise and fall time, transition time, slew rate, pulse width, duty cycle, jitter. All these things are very basic of clock signals. So we will see in details of these things in this session. So let's start. Clock signal. So ideal clock signal is represented like this. So a clock signal toggles between these two levels. One is called logic 0 and one is called logic 1. So it's low level, it's high level. In between our clock signal toggles. Clock signal can be generated by repetition of a part of signal, which is basically called your one clock cycle. So entire clock signal can be generated by repetition of this signal, looks like this. If we repeat this, we can generate entire clock signal. So digital clock signals having two fixed voltage levels on which signal toggles continuously after a fixed time interval. Most common way to generate the clock signal in digital circuit is PLL, that is phase lock loop. Every sequential element in your design works on the clock signal, like your flops, latches, memories, all these things works on your clock signals. Latches operates on the level of clock, whereas flip-flop on the edge of clock. So clock cycle is defined as the smallest part of clock signal which could generate the entire clock signal by repetition of it. So next we will see age and level of the clock signal. So you can see this moment of time, your clock signal is toggle from low to high. So this transition is called this age is called rising age. So rising age, where the clock toggles from level low to level high, it is also called leading edge or positive edge. And look over this moment where your clock is falling from a level high to level low. So these edges are called falling edge. So falling edge is defined as where clock signal toggle from level high to level low. It is also called trailing edge or negative edge. Then look at this region where your clock is constant and it's constant high. So this is called your level, and it is constant high, so it is called level high. And in this region you can see your clock is constantly low, so this is called level low. So clock levels, constant high or constant low level of clock is called level high and level low respectively. Latches are level sensitive. On the edges of clock, your flip-flop works on the edges of clock where your data change, and on the level your latches are works on the your levels of the clock. Okay, next we will see the clock period and frequency. Clock period is generally indicated by the symbol T, and it is defined as the time taken to complete one clock cycle. So you can see here this is your clock period. So the time taken by the clock to complete a cycle, one clock cycle, is called your clock period. We can also say the time duration between two consecutive rising edge or two consecutive falling edge is your clock period. You can see here from here to here it is one clock period, or we can define, or we can say from this falling edge to next falling edge is your clock period. So unit will be as a unit of time, that is second, but most commonly used time is your microsecond, nanosecond and picosecond, since our clock period in digital design is very low. So we cannot define, so we generally don't use the second, we use microsecond, that is 10 to the power minus 6 second, nanosecond, that is 10 to the power minus 9 second, and picosecond even shorter, that is 10 to the power minus 12 second. Then next, clock frequency. So clock frequency is a reciprocal of clock period. It indicates number of clock cycle repetition per unit time. So in a unit time, how much clock cycles get repeated, and that is your clock frequency. Or we can mathematically define frequency equal to 1 by time period. So unit will be 1 by time, that is hertz. But commonly used units in your digital design or ASIC design is megahertz, that is 10 to the power 6 hertz, gigahertz, that is 10 to the power 9 hertz. Most commonly used frequency range is gigahertz in this time. Then terahertz, that is 10 to the power 12 hertz. And if there is a time period of a clock signal is 1 nanosecond, then its frequency will be 1 to the power 10 to the 1 to the power 1 by 10 to the power minus 9 second, that is 1 gigahertz. So higher the frequency, lower the clock period. This was the representation of ideal digital clock, but in reality clock could not be instantly go high or instantly go to low. It takes some time, and real clock looks like this, and its clock period is defined at the 50% of the height of this height of the logics between which 50% of the voltage difference between which it toggles. Next we will see the rise time and fall time. So we have seen the ideal digital clock looks like this, but the real digital clock will be somehow this in this way. But if we go for more reality, and if we plot this clock signals generated from PLL2 on a oscilloscope, it will look like this. And from here, one thing we can observe that the rate of rising at the moment when it starts rise is very less, and it goes increase, and in this duration the rate of rise is almost constant, and again rate of rise decreases when it approaches to the logic 1. So our rise time is defined as the time taken by the clock to gauge it from 10% of minimum value, 10% of the voltage in which toggles to the 90% of the voltage. So the time taken by the clock to rise from 10% of the voltage to 90% of the voltage in which it toggles is called your rise time. Okay. In some cases it is also defined as from 20% to 80%, and similarly the fall time, the time taken by the clock to fall from 90% to 10%. This is called your fall time, and it some cases it is also defined as from 80% to 20%. Okay, next we will see the transition time and slew rate. Here is a real clock. So the time taken from time taken by the clock to goes from logic 0 to logic 1 or logic 1 to logic 0 is your transition time. So time requires to change the logic level of a signal either from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 0 is called transition time. And slew rate is defined as the rate of change of logic level, that is your voltage, with time during the transition of signal is called slew rate. So its unit will be voltage per nanosecond, how much voltage changes per nanosecond. So higher the slew rate, steeper will be the transition. Now we can see the impact of transition time on the clock. So for example, if we fed this clock to a normal inverter, a CMOS inverter, so what will happen? First of all, in inverters you have a PMOS here and you have a NMOS here, and we know that the conduction in PMOS, current conduction in the PMOS is due to holes, and in NMOS is due to electrons. And we also know that the mobility of electrons is more than 2 times the mobility of holes. So the load connected from the output of this output terminal will be charged through this path, I mean this PMOS, and will be discharged through this path, I mean this NMOS. And since the here I am considering the width of both NMOS and PMOS is equal, which is ideally which is drawn. So definitely this PMOS is slow, so it will take more time to charge your load, and it will take the less time to discharge this load. So ideally the output should be look like this, just inverted from the input, but in reality your output will be look like this. You can see here the rise time which will be due to this PMOS will be larger than ideally it should be, and its fall time will be lesser from the ideal from the expected, as this NMOS is faster, so it will look like this. What can you observe here? You can see here your rise time has increased and fall time has decreased. So imagine there are a series of such inverters inverters in which your signal, clock signal is going on. In case of your clock tree, where there is a big series of inverters and the buffers, and if we use the normal CMOS inverter, then what will going to happen? This red part is again fed to the next level of inverter, so it will again increase its rise time and again decrease its fall time. So at the end of your the bigger chain of such inverters will completely distort your actual clock signal. So what will be its impact? You can see here from one level of inverters, its width, pulse width, this is defined as pulse width. I will explain in next slide. So pulse width is going to decrease. So so to maintain that things, we must design this inverters or buffers properly, so that the transition time is maintained. And that's why in your clock tree we don't use the normal inverter and buffers, we use clock inverter and buffers, which is specially designed to maintain the transition time. Rise time and fall time is balanced on such a clock inverters and buffers. Definitely its size will be larger, as we need to increase the width of this PMOS to match the current with this to match the fall time due to this NMOS, right? So next we will see the pulse width. In ideal clock, you can see the duration for which the clock is on is defined as your pulse width, and if in this case the 50% of this differences, the level of 50% from here to here, it is defined as the pulse width. If pulse width decreases, it will your clock signal will look like this, and if pulse width increases, your clock signal will going to look like this. So if the larger pulse width, that means your on time is large, and if the lower pulse width, then your clock is going to on for a smaller duration. So the time difference between the rising edge and the falling edge of the clock is called the pulse width. To make more accurate measurement, we consider 50% of voltage level point of reference in the rising and falling edge. Next, we will see the duty cycle and the duty cycle in the clock signal. Here is the clock signals. We have seen this is called the pulse width, this is called time period. So pulse width divided by time period is called your duty cycle. In case of real clock signals, we will take 50% of this difference in voltage as a pulse width, and pulse width divided by time period is your duty cycle. In this case, if it is about symmetrical, that is for 50% of the time the clock is high and for 50% of the time the clock is low, then your duty cycle will be 50%. Okay, and how will look like at a 20% duty cycle clock? It will pulse width will be 20%, only 20% of the total width. So it will be very narrow pulse width signal. And how will look like a 80% pulse width signal, clock signal, at very wider pulse width signal. So it will be on for a longer time and off for a shorter time. So these are the unbalanced clocks signals. Duty cycle is defined as the ratio of on time of clock, that is pulse width, to the clock period. Generally, it is defined as in the form of percentage of the time to the clock period. Duty cycle percentage equal to on time divided by on time plus off time multiplied by 100 in percentage, or pulse width by clock width into 100, that is duty cycle in percentage, or pulse width into frequency into 100, that is your duty cycle in percentage. Now we will see the jitter in the clock signal. So ideally, we expect the clock signal like this. So consider if clock frequency of 1 gigahertz, then what we expect, that is its period will be 1000 ps, 1 NF, that is 1000 ps. So falling edge should come at 500 ps and rising edge should come at 1000 ps. But ideally, but in reality, no PLL is capable to generate such accurate pulse width. So what happens, instead of your edge falls at 500 ps, it may come 495 ps, 490 ps, or 400 or 510 ps. In reality, your edge may vary from where it should ideally occur. We know that non-ideality of the PLL. It couldn't be ideal, so that the exact point of time your clock edge will come. So this is ideal age, and due to jitter, your clock may come either from here, in between, from here to here. So this type of variation in the occurrence of edges is called your jitter. So jitter is the short term variation of clock period which leads to deviation of clock edge from its ideal position, or we can say it is inability of clock source to produce a clean edge of signal. For example, in a 1 GHz clock signal, clock period should be 1000 ps. You can see here, but in reality your clock edge may occur at 990 ps or may occur at 1010 ps. So next clock rising edge should come ideally at 1000 ps after the first edge, but in reality it might appear anywhere between 990 to 1010 ps due to non-ideality of PLL. Here jitter is your 10 ps, right? Jitter could be either positive or negative. Jitter can impact your timing analysis. We will see that in the coming sessions, how jitter impact our timing analysis, and to model this jitter of the clock, we apply clock uncertainty in timing analysis. We will also discuss the clock uncertainty in a separate session in this series. So thank you for watching this session. Please do like this video, subscribe our channel, and share with your friends and colleagues.